I am Beth with the Vineyard Team. I manage the SIP certified program. So between the rapidly evolving situation with COVID-19 and catastrophic wildfires that we've seen throughout California over the past number of years, a lot of you may be wondering how this impacts your insurance policies. So today we have Audra Morey, who's a risk advisor with Morris Garritano, to explain the current situation in the insurance landscape and what questions you can be asking your agent as you go through these changing situations.
All right. Hi, thanks, Beth. I appreciate you all hopping on this morning and the opportunity to share this information with you. As she mentioned, my name is Audra Morey. I'm with a risk advisor with Morris Garritano Insurance, and I specialize in working with the wine industry. I grew up in agriculture and studied ag business while at Cal Poly. So when I started with Morris Garritano, it really was a natural transition for me to specialize in working with the wine industry and helping with their insurance programs. All right, so with that, we'll jump into it. And again, thank you all for taking the time this morning. I know it's a very unique time, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Thank you again to Beth and the Vineyard team for getting this set up and allowing me the opportunity to share some of this information with you all. While I'm sure insurance has not been top of mind recently, there are some changes occurring that will be affecting you. So with this discussion, I really do hope to shed some light on those subjects and have you walking away with a little bit more knowledge than we started with. And as Beth mentioned, we are going to start by going over how COVID-19 and the virus and lockdown has affected insurance over the past 6 weeks, what you should be aware of, as well as touch on why you should possibly be considering cyber insurance at this time as well. Then we'll jump over into questions regarding that that can be dropped in the chat box. Then we will switch gears and go into why recent wildfires are affecting your insurance and some things that you could do to help lessen the impact of that, and then followed again by questions and then send you on your way. But with that, let's get into it here. Let's get the slide switched. So as we all know, COVID-19 has been impacting our day-to-day lives in numerous ways, and insurance has not been immune to that. Likely you've either read a report already or have had a discussion with your broker and have learned that most insurance policies aren't going to be extending coverage in this scenario. There are a few reasons why this is, and mainly has to do with wording that is found in most insurance policies. Normally for business income coverage to be triggered, there has to be physical damage to your property. Likely the virus has not caused any actual physical damage, so that's one reason why coverage has not been extended. Another main reason why this is because of a common exclusion that is found on almost all insurance policies called the virus and bacteria exclusion. As the name implies, this excludes coverage from losses that occurred due to viruses. This was actually created after the SARS outbreak in the early 2000s. Carriers even then saw that if there were to be a worldwide widespread pandemic as we're experiencing right now, it wouldn't be possible for them to financially calculate the amount of money needed to cover those losses and to calculate the premiums needed to cover the amount of losses we've seen thus far. Nearly impossible. There is one instance that we know of so far where coverage has been extended, and that is for Wimbledon, which hosts the largest tennis match in the world. So huge company, think on the lines of Super Bowl or whatnot, and they have been paying over $2 million in premium each year for the past 17 years for that coverage to take effect. So as I'm sure most of us wouldn't be able to afford that level of coverage or would choose to invest in it, even if that were the case. That's a huge sum of money to pay for that coverage to extend. While this is the case, we are encouraging that if you do feel that there might be coverage for your specific policy, that you can submit a claim to your carrier, work through your broker to do that. The Department of Insurance does require that there's fair investigation of all COVID-related claims, so it doesn't hurt to ask. This is a new situation for all of us, and we don't necessarily know what it will look like in the end. So if that's something you want to explore, that option is available to you. Along with this, carriers are trying to be really empathetic to what's going on and help clients as best they can. The Department of Insurance has requested that insurance carriers implement a 60-day grace period for cancellations due to non-payment. Many carriers have done this, as well as implement other strategies to try and see us through these really difficult times. Some auto carriers are discounting their policies for the month of April because we're not on the road and we're not driving right now. Health insurance carriers, some are extending those benefits to employees that might have been furloughed and otherwise wouldn't have coverage, as well as work comp carriers are understanding of the fact that most of you don't have as many employees on right now or have shifted your hours, so you might need to change that level exposure on your policy. So these are just a few examples of the many things that carriers are doing in a way to help business owners. But before making any decisions about deferring payments or making changes to your policies, I would really strongly recommend that you confirm what your specific carrier is doing before making any of those decisions. And that includes having a discussion with your broker, your current broker, and leveraging that relationship you have with us. Right now, more than ever, we're here as that trusted advisor to see you through these really difficult times. We know what carriers are doing. They're in communication with us, so then we can relay that to you. We're working really hard to stay abreast of the seemingly daily changes that are occurring with regulations and resources that are out there, and are doing the best that we can to get the most relevant sources and information out to the business community. So we really are here to help you in this time and lean on that relationship you have right now. If you do find that you're needing assistance sorting through the mass of information, articles, resources out there right now, Morris and Garritano has put together a COVID-19 resource page where we have attempted to streamline the mass amount of information out there to get what we feel is the most relevant information to business owners. So I would strongly encourage you to check that out if you need more information or want just one clean place to find what you should be looking into. That's at morrisgarritano.com/COVID-19. It's here on the slide, and we'll also drop that in the chat box as well. But again, I would recommend that you check that out if you are needing help sorting through the information. But while you're having discussions with your broker, I also really strongly recommend that you broach the topic of cyber insurance. This is something I wanted to bring up this morning simply because we've been seeing a major uptick in the number of cyber attacks over the past month and a half. And this is a coverage that a lot of wineries and vineyards might not think is relevant to them. So I want to bring to top of mind some scenarios where you might have that exposure. Cyber insurance is intended to cover a variety of situations that could result from engaging in electronic activity. So if you have a website, likely you have a cyber exposure, and likely it's increased during this time for a couple of different reasons. One, there are a lot of employees working from home right now, and more than likely they're connected to their own network, which is not as secure as what you have at your place of business. Along with this, they also have housemates or family members that are connected to the internet as well, and you as a business owner don't have control over what sites they're going to or what's popping up, and that could lead to a hole in your security, which could lead to hacks or scams getting in. So that's one reason. And another reason that's a real positive for the wine industry, and I'm so happy that it's an option out there to keep revenue coming in during this time when you're physically closed. But online transactions also open you up to a more of a cyber risk. Right now, you're probably collecting a lot more credit card information, a lot more full names, addresses, email addresses, and that's all information that could be stolen from your website and then held at ransom, and you could be liable for that leak of private information. So while it's great that you're able to increase your online sales, it also comes at a price of possibly increased cyber exposure. And unfortunately, during really difficult times, there's always going to be those people that capitalize on the difficulties at hand, and now is no different. Unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of hackers and scammers using fronts of the SBA and PPP loans to hack into systems. The most recent example of this that actually occurred in San Luis Obispo County was a business owner was set to receive their PPP funds that day. They received a call from their bank, supposedly, saying they just needed them to log into their secure portal real fast before the funds were able to be accessible. They just needed to change something like a contact setting or preference. Nothing major, nothing that would raise any alarm. So the business owner logged into their portal, and without knowing that there was a hacker already in their network that just needed them to get into their portal for them to be able to initiate a wire transfer of their PPP funds to an offshore account. And unfortunately, once those wire transfers begin, it's extremely difficult to get that reversed and get your money back. And this business owner was relying on those funds to get through the next 8 weeks or so and to bring back their employees. And unfortunately now, more than likely, they aren't going to be able to get that money back. And that's not the only instance we've seen of this. There's many stories out there of that. So that's the main reason why I did want to bring this up, just to bring it to the top of your mind and maybe initiate that discussion with your broker about seeing what options are available for you with that. It's just something, like I said, isn't always considered by wineries and vineyards, and wanted to show you a few situations that could lead to you having a cyber risk. But with that, that wraps up the main items I wanted to touch on regarding COVID-19 and the changes it's creating for the insurance realm.